Today is Yutes Iyar, Friday, Yutes Iyar, Tovshin Pei Beis. We are in Teres Menachem, Sefer Mamorim, Tovshin Yudalid. In the first Mamar, the Mamar for Rosh Hashanah. Zeh Hayom Tchilas Masecha, we are on page Hey, towards the bottom. Right? So we are up to Vizehu in Yam ve'eretz. It's the line starts Hamakablim. 9 lines from the bottom at the full stop. The Rebbe here is discussing the difference between the Malchus aspect in every Sfira and Malchus as it is a full Sfira in its own right, the last of the 10 Sfiras. What happened? Oh. Good morning. Where's your mate?
It's a new situation. His wife's come down with COVID, so he's got to walk.
Oh, Mazel Tov. So, you have a sefer?
No, I'll just concentrate on it.
Just get a Tovshin, if you want, get a Tovshin Yudalid from there.
I'm going to find it. It's all right, I'll concentrate here.
In fact, I have a copy right here.
Perfect.
It's Hay, page Hay.
Okay.
You got to flip it long edges because they're upside down. So we are on page Hay in the Maimer, 9 lines from the bottom. The line starts at Mekablim. We're at the full stop. Are you up to speed with the previous Shiurim?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Rebbe here is discussing the difference between Malchus as it is, 9 lines from the bottom.
Good.
The difference between Malchus, the Malchus aspect in each Sfira, which is basically the Keli, the vessel, and Malchus as it is a full Sfira in its own right. Both conceal. The function of Malchus is to conceal, but to conceal what? Of course, the ultimate purpose is revelation, but the first step is to conceal that which is too great to reveal. To conceal that which follows on cannot receive. Right? So in the Eir, the function of Malchus, the function of the Keli, is to conceal the divine energy as it is in its own right, not the aspect of the energy that is transmittable onto the other. We discussed this many shurim ago, that there is the Gili of the Eir, the Gili of the divine energy as it is for itself, and then there is the way it portrays itself on. So the part of it that is within itself, it could be transmittable onto the other, but then you would have
You have godliness below.
but exactly. So it would defeat the purpose.
Yeah.
So in the Hishtalshalus, in the constrictions, contractions, and descent, gradual descent, transition from higher to lower, from Sfira to Sfira, it let's use the simpler terms. It conceals the Etzem Ha'ir, and it absorbs the part of the Eir that's transmittable on, and that is what comes into the Keli, that's what it regulates, and that's what it transmits onwards. Malchus, as a full Sfira, the 10th of all the Sfiras, where it gathers all the divine energies that precede it, gathers into it and conceals everything. Even the part of that Eir that is transmittable on. So the Helim is a greater one. That's why the jump from one realm to the other is a gap, it's a leap. It doesn't go gradually from Atzilus to Bria, from Bria to Yitzira. At some point there is that gap, that leap. That is exactly the point. So something does go through Malchus, but something which is completely beyond what was gathered into it before, that it contained within itself. That's what the Rebbe says over here. And that's why in Malchus, there are 2 dimensions to Malchus. There's Yam and there's Eretz. There's Malchus as it is referred to as the sea, the ocean, the sea, and the land, the dry land. The sea denoting Helim, concealment, and earth denoting revelation. That's where we're up to. V'zeu in Yam ve'eretz shebesfiras Malchus. These are the concepts of Yam, sea, ve'eretz, and earth, land, as they are referred to in relation to the divine supernal attribute of Malchus. Yam hu b'chinas hahelem shebemalchus. Yam refers to the concealment aspect of Malchus. V'hu in Knesset Yisrael, this is the idea of Malchus being referred to as the assembly of Israel. What does it mean assembly? What does it assemble? It contains, it gathers in. It gathers into it, it gathers into it all the divine supernal energies that precede it, that and conceals upon them. The Eretz, land, where things are revealed, we look at the sea, all you see is water. Even though we know, as the Chazal say, sages say, Kol yesh bayam, whatever there is on the dry land, you have in the sea. But when you look at the sea, you don't see anything, right? All you see is water, because it conceals. As we've just finished in the Rambam, Hashem, Kamayim Layom Mechasim. Yam is the idea of concealment, covering. The Eretz is the idea of the revelation aspect of Malchus. And it's from that revelation aspect of Malchus, through that revelation aspect of Malchus, that's how Bri Yitzir and Asiya come into play. Of course, we're talking basically, when we talk about Sfiris, mainly, usually, as is the case, we talk about the Sfiris in Atzilus and how they transmit onto Biyah. Because Atzilus and Biyah, Atzilus is in one realm, as we know, domain of the Creator. Bri Yitzir Asiya is already domain of created. Bri, as we noted many times, Bara, from the Ramban, means Yesh Me'ayin, Ex Nihilo, and so on and so forth. So that's where creation begins. So the leap from Malchus of Atzilus to Biyah, right, is through Malchus, right, and in a manner that it conceals everything above it, and it just reveals a tiny little bit of something. In Ecclesiastes it says, everything came from the dust, everything came from the earth. It uses the expression ha'afar, which is another word for saying oretz. What's earth? Afar is dust or earth, right? It means everything comes from Malchus. V'hainu shehahisav. And which aspect of Malchus? Not the Yam aspect of Malchus, but the Afar aspect of Malchus, the Eretz aspect of Malchus, the earth aspect of Malchus. Shehahishavus shemi b'chinas Eretz sheba Malchus. For creation that comes from the aspect of Malchus, the earth aspect of Malchus, ein bagam mashiyesh b'chinas Yam sheba Malchus, doesn't have within it even that which Malchus contains in its Yam aspect. So it conceals everything. The sea aspect of Malchus, where it ingathers everything from above, all it does with that is it gathers it in and it withholds it completely. Right? So where does creation come from? From the Eretz aspect of Malchus. In more detail, says the Rebbe, in more detail, al yidei haparsa. Not only is there a Malchus, is there Malchus that has this function of concealing completely, and then sort of having this minute aspect of divine energy breaking through, leaping through the barrier of Malchus. In addition to Malchus, we also have the Parsa, as you learned many times, right? There are a number of Parsas, curtains or barriers. Parsa is like a blackout curtain or like a real barrier, right? That's really impenetrable. You have to split through it in order for something to get through, right? So there are certain junctions or junctures in Seder Shtalshalos where you have a parsa. Usually, it's when you're transitioning from a realm which is immeasurably greater than the realm that follows. Atzilus being in that category relative to what? To Bri Yitzir and Asiya, to Biyah. So not only is there Malchus at the end of Atzilus, which has this function of concealing everything, but in addition to that, there's the parsa, this barrier.
And that's a functional aspect of Malchus itself. Is Malchus?
Not necessarily, because you have other realms where there's Malchus, and then it transitions on to the next realm, and there's no parsa.
But the parsa is Malchus?
No, it's in addition to what Malchus does. There's an additional concealment.
It's not another aspect of Malchus.
No. It's a parsa. It's an additional gap and concealment.
It's not one of the 10 spheres?
No.
Where does it come from? Where do we see it higher up so that it can come lower down?
Probably the Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum edition. I have to look it up. If I have to guess, it's probably the Tzimtzum edition, where everything was retracted. There was nothing. And then how did the oir come into the chalal makaponi, into the hollow? It pierced through, and he pulled in a little. That's effectively a complete siluk, That's the first siluk. That repeats itself at certain junctions, because what was that at that point? Also, that was the first massive gap. There was no transition, easy transition from the creator to the created, from the Atzmas Oyer to Ein Sof as it starts becoming part of Seder Shtalshalos, Adam Kadman, and so on and so forth, right? So that paradigm repeats itself in a miniature way. So then you have that parsa.
So it's a Tzimtzum, not a parsa.
Well, because in Tzimtzum there's different Tzimtzum. There's Tzimtzum b'bchinas Siluk, there's Tzimtzum b'bchinas Miut, there's a Tzimtzum that just shrinks down, then there's a Tzimtzum that removes completely. Here he's talking almost a complete removal, so to speak, right? The bottom line is, to focus on the point that he's trying to make, is the difference between the function of Malchus as it is a Sphira and the function of Malchus as it is an aspect in each one of the individual Spheres. The Helem, the concealment of Malchus as it is a full Sphira, is far greater than the Helem, the concealment of Malchus, that Malchus imposes on the Ur as it is an aspect in each Sphira individually.
Just get this right. So when you move from Chesed to Gevura, in Olam Atikra, in
Atzilus, yeah.
In Chesed, there's Malchus.
The Keli, call it the Keli.
You say Chesed is Malchus, you say,
Yeah, or you know what? Yeah, call it.
So we're saying that Malchus in Chesed allows Gevura to appear.
Correct.
Yeah.
Similarly, Malchus of all the Spheres allows Bia to appear. But how? Through this complete concealment.
Yeah.
If it wouldn't be that way, then you would have a replica of Atzilus.
Yeah.
The idea is to bring something else into being. The idea is to bring in existence that feels itself as a separate, completely separate entity. If you didn't have this massive concealment plus the parsa, you would have a miniature Atzilus or a replica of Atzilus or another, you would have Gashmias, but you would receive godliness.
What a pleasure.
As it descends down, you have to presume that what was down there was there before that was sent down to it. Because you can't have, for example, anything dropping into your head unless there's a head there.
I'm not following what you're asking.
I'm talking about the order of how these things appear.
Right.
Because when you say it drops down, there's nothing there until it drops down.
No, so that gives rise to creation. We're talking about creation.
Yeah.
It's creating. What comes out, in other words, what comes out through the Helem of Malchus and through the Helem of the Parsa, the concealment of Malchus, the concealment of the Parsa, is a Bria, is a creature, is a created being. That's the point. How do you get to that created being? By going through these massive concealments. So it's not that it drops down into something. What drops down is that something, that creature. In all its aspects, the Keli, the different, so on and so forth. Because even, we need the parsa, because even so far as the concealment of Malchus that we just mentioned, as it is a full-blown Sphira, where it's a greater concealment than Malchus as it is in each individual Sphira, that concealment alone is not enough, because as it is in Atzilus, in the realm of emanation, it could be concealed. You could conceal, but you can't bring into being through that process alone something which is a yesh, feels itself as a separate identity, and feels itself as a separate existence. V'dafke al dei parsa, specifically through the parsa, through this curtain, through this barrier, that concealment, that what can come into being is something that feels itself that has an individual, separate identity and existence. Right? So that is how things are in Atzilus, from Atzilus to Bia. The Rebbe adds, this is also true in the creation of the entirety, the generality of the chain order of creation. It comes from Malchus of the Ein Sof, which is the infinite Malchus. Exactly here, the Rebbe says it explicitly. That's exactly the point. How do we get from the Ein Sof Shalifnei HaTzimtzum, Hashem's divine infinite energy, light, before the Tzimtzum edition, the first contraction, to Ishtalshalus? How does Ishtalshalus come into being? You need a Tzimtzum. How? What kind of Tzimtzum? And as we know, that Tzimtzum, that contraction is known in the terminology of Kabbalah Chassidus, Tzimtzum b'bchinas siluk. It's complete retraction, complete elam. It completely conceals the Ein Sof that is before the Tzimtzum. And it's only through that when the Ein Sof comes into being, in this hollow and this void that is created through the Tzimtzum, metaphorically speaking, that it gives rise to Ishtalshalus and ultimately to creation as we know it. Why? Just one word, notionally. Because, what's the difference? The Ein Sof was there before, so now all you're doing is drawing back the Ein Sof into this void. But there's a big difference. Before the Ein Sof, before the Tzimtzum, before the contraction, before the Siluk, before this removal, complete removal, all the Ein Sof knew was godliness. Now that you created metaphorically speaking, a void, in other words, you've created a space where, so to speak, there could be something other than Ein Sof, and the Ein Sof now comes into presence in that reality. What does it say? Hang on a second. There's the possibility for something other. That's how Ishtalshalus and creation comes into being. Clear? And the same thing repeats itself from Atzilus to Beyond and so on. 3 more lines, let's finish the Eis. This is the concept of Rosh Hashanah. And he's going back to the original question that he asked. Why is it called Chilas Masech, the beginning of your actions? Beginning of creation. How can you refer to that as Rosh Hashanah? To Rosh Hashanah as the beginning of Hashem's creation when it's the 6th day of creation. So he says, this is the idea of Rosh Hashanah. Through the Neshamas Yisrael, serving Hashem with the acceptance of His yoke and total nullification that emanates from the very essence of the soul. The why does it have to be from the essence of the soul? Because we have to draw down the very essence of Malchus. As will be explained later on. Therefore, correspondingly, the service of the souls, our service of Hashem on that day has to be emanating from where? From the depths of the soul. So through that Kabbalah Soul, through triggering the Kabbalah Soul from the very pnimius of the soul, we draw down Hashem's kingdom from where? From the very pnimius, from the highest level. And through this, we become a nation. As we said before, Ein Melech B'Layam. You need a nation to have a king. What does it mean, having a nation? It means giving existence and veracity and strength to the existence of the world. When does that happen? When do we do that? On Rosh Hashanah, through our Avodah. So even though it's the 6th day of creation, it could be referred to, Rosh Hashanah could be referred to as the beginning of your creation, because even though chronologically the first time creation started on the first day, but when is everything retracted back to its original source? And when do we bring it all back down from its very essence and very source? From that point forward, it's on Rosh Hashanah. That's why it could be called the beginning of your actions.
Gotcha.